All righty. Good evening to everybody. Commissioners, good evening. Welcome to our regularly scheduled meeting. It is Zoning Advisory Commission meeting, that is. It's Wednesday, May 6th, 2026. Jason, will you be taking roll?
Yes.
Okay.
Christ,
Here.
Froistad,
Here.
Lorman is excused, Mulligan,
Here.
Norton,
Here.
Russell,
Here.
Zucchero.
Here.
All right. Can you confirm we're in compliance with the Iowa Open Meetings Law?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, in front of you are the meeting minutes from April the 1st, 2026. I'll entertain any changes to discuss or a motion for approval as submitted.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 1st, 2026 meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. Jason?
Froistad,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, those minutes are approved as submitted. Thank you. All right, so on our agenda tonight, we actually have 0 action items. We have 3 separate public hearings. The way that the public hearings will work is we'll ask the speaker for whichever your respective item is to come up to the podium. You'll state your name, your address, and what it is that you're looking for from the commission. There is, on the podium there's a little up-down deal, so you can move the microphone up if you need to. We'll give you the opportunity to speak to the commission, and then I will ask you to have a seat. I'll open up the floor for any public input. If you come up to make a comment, again, just state your name, state your address, and your comment regarding it, and then I'll close the hearing at that point, and we'll move forward. I understand, Commissioner Norton, you have to recuse yourself from this first one, so thank you for that. So with that, we'll move to the first item at 1836 Washington Street.
Good evening, Commissioners, staff. My name is Pat Norton. I'm with Beasing and Associates, 1212 Locust Street. I'm here tonight to represent Gary Karner, the owner of the property in question here. He unfortunately was already booked for this evening, so he asked me to fill in for him. We've been working with Gary, and he would like to build essentially a contractor shop adjacent to his current building, which is right on the corner of 18th and Washington. That is zoned LI, and for clarification, originally we'd asked for that to be rezoned to C4 as well, but at a later date, he decided that he might as well just leave that alone as light industrial and only rezone the one property. So there may be a couple references back and forth to 2 properties, but that has now been changed to just the single property, which is the property not on the corner. So anyway, yeah, it's his intention to construct basically a contractor shop, which is going to be very similar to the building next door. So yeah, in order to do this, he's just requesting that it be rezoned to C4.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, I'll hang around or.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions for Pat? Okay, very good. Thanks, Pat. All right, like I said, this is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open up the floor for any comments regarding this particular one. Very good. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Our staff tonight, Sheena.
Yeah, thank you,
Go ahead.
Chairperson Mulligan. Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. So as the applicant identified, this is a rezoning request for the property at 1836 Washington Street. On the screen before you here, you can see an aerial image. The subject property is outlined in blue. And as you can see by the color coding here, there are a number of other zoning districts in this neighborhood, in this block. We do have the corner property that the applicant referenced, which is under the same ownership as the subject property. And that lot is currently zoned light industrial. That's the gray block there. The subject property is currently an R2A zoning district, and that is shown as that kind of orangish, yellowish color on the map here. So you can see there's a number of lots that are also under that zoning district. As we look across Washington Street, there is a section of C4 zoning district, which is, again, the rezoning request this evening, that same zoning district. And then there is some C2 scattered zoning districts scattered around the area. So this truly is a mix of zoning regulation or zoning designations as well as uses in the area. The property currently has historically been functioning as a community garden. And so, as I understand, the property owner has worked with the neighboring community to allow that to operate on the property, but now is looking to redevelop the property for their own commercial use. So that's really the catalyst that is bringing the request forward today. Let me see here. So the property is primarily flat. As I mentioned, it does have frontage along Washington Street. The other thing to note, I guess, in the area is that there is a public park across the street here. It's part of that R2A district. And as I mentioned before, there's a laundromat in the vicinity, contractor-style use at the corner here. So again, just a really mix of different uses. Redevelopment of the lot isn't necessarily anticipated to result in any significant change to traffic patterns in the area. It is a smaller property, and so the redevelopment and the uses that could fit on there really will limit the number of traffic and trips to the property. The public services utilities are adequate in the area to serve the property. We do not anticipate any environmental impacts. This property, if redeveloped, will require review by the development review team, so that will go through that city process to ensure that it's compliant with all city code and regulations for the use being proposed. And I will just show here just kind of a side-by-side comparison. This is and was included in your packet. The zoning districts, the R2A zoning district showing the principal permitted uses as well as the C4 zoning district. So again, this does show an increase in the number of uses, as you can see in the chart here. The ones highlighted are showing an overlap of the same uses in both districts. And again, while this will allow for a number of additional uses, the site itself being smaller in nature would potentially limit some of the uses that are on this list, just in nature of lot size and parking requirements and things of that nature. So that's something to note. To date, staff has not received any public input, either for or against, for this project or this request. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Sheena. Any questions for staff? All right. I think typically it's strange to get rid of a community garden for something like this, but that is a mishmash of properties around there. And we have no input from neighbors, right?
Correct, no input from neighbors. And I will just note too that, and I didn't note this during my presentation, but the property is currently zoned R2A. So if the property owner wished to develop a duplex or townhome on the property, that would currently be permitted as well. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Commissioners, any conversation? Any thoughts? All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval as submitted then.
I move we recommend rezoning of 1836 Washington Street from R2A to C4.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Jason, we have a second and a third.
Carroll,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Forstad,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay. That motion passes. That will go before City Council on
1 moment.
May.
On May 18th. Thank you, sorry about that.
Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, which is the rezoning of multiple parcel IDs at 101 Airborne Road. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kenneth Miller, the Solid Waste Agency Administrator for the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Agency. So our request tonight is to rezone these parcels shown on the screen here. from ag to heavy industrial with conditions, similar to the rest of the parcels out at the facility, which are zoned with those conditions on there for heavy industrial, which limits the use of the property to the intended use, which is landfilling and a few other activities I think that are listed in that special conditions, but is a limited version of the heavy industrial zoning. We're doing this in conjunction with permitting for future cell expansion. So we have about 13 years, 3 months now left in our existing landfill cell. As we look at areas on site to continue to expand the facility to provide the low-cost solid waste disposal services to Dubuque and Dubuque County residents. These parcels are the next area that we would look to develop. They're contiguous with the existing landfill cell. All the infrastructure that exists under our existing landfill cells is connected to the infrastructure of the city of Dubuque, and therefore it makes sense to for us to apply for this rezoning request now. It simplifies the permitting process with the state, and for the waterway that eventually will need to be moved, it simplifies that process with the Army Corps of Engineers and the state also to move this forward as we look to expand the landfill.
Very good. Any other questions for Kenneth this evening? We've had the opportunity to have you here before, so thank you. Good. All right, so like I said, this is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open it up for any comments from the public regarding this particular item. Very good. All right. Seeing none, I'll close that.
We got one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wasn't sure if you were. All right.
My name is Carissa Trilk. I own the adjoining property. So where the pond would be our property. We are opposed.
Could you state your address, please?
I'm sorry, 14847 Lost Canyon Road.
Go ahead.
My husband could not be here tonight. He's physically not able, he had surgery. So we are opposed, I'm speaking on his behalf as well, that to this rezoning. Not only does this affect our waterway and could possibly push that water and that damage back into our property, but also devalues our property. We've considered putting our land into conservation, all of our land, for that purpose, to try to prevent that from happening and to have additional protection.
Thanks, Carissa. Okay. All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing, and this evening, Jason, you'll be given the report. All right, the floor is yours.
Assistant Planner Jason Duba. The applicant, Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Agency, Damascus, proposes to rezone the subject property to HI heavy industrial with conditions concurrent with annexing the property into the city limits. About a year ago, we rezoned a portion of their property that was already in the city limits to the heavy industrial with conditions district. The purpose for this is to allow the land to be used as part of the sanitary landfill. This is in Damascus' plan to expand the capacity of the landfill to accommodate future demand. Damascus' strategic plan estimates that with this added area, the landfill will have capacity for over 190 years. Damascus will go through the process of obtaining permits for future landfill cell expansion that would use this land. The land will be converted into a sanitary landfill, which will manage solid waste in an environmentally friendly manner with an engineered base, which will be combined with a collection system for the leachate, which is the liquid generated as waste breaks down, to protect and prevent the contamination of the soil and groundwater. To improve air quality, the Damascus landfill also has a gas collection system to capture methane, a highly potent greenhouse gas, produced as the waste in the landfill breaks down, which is converted to renewable natural gas. Without access to a local solid waste disposal facility, All waste generated in the area would have to be hauled by truck to another location, increasing the waste's greenhouse gas impact. Several additional approvals will have to be obtained before the land can be prepared for use as a landfill. The Iowa Department of Natural Resources will review the permit application for use as a landfill. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will work with Damascus in their effort to move the creek in this area. Regulations for landfills require them to be at least 500 feet from a neighboring property line and 1,000 feet from any well. Damascus will be planting trees as screening along the outer boundaries of the landfill cells. The Imagine Dubuque Comprehensive Plan goals promote solid waste reduction, composting, and pollution mitigation. With this land incorporated as part of the landfill, Damascus estimates there would be capacity for 193 years of continued use here, and without it, there's capacity for approximately 13 years of use. The city's future land use map identifies the subject site as heavy industrial, the same as the rest of the landfill. The subject property is currently in unincorporated Dubuque County with a mix of agricultural, conservancy, and residential zoning. The city of Dubuque is working to annex the property concurrent with this rezoning. The property is comprised of 6 parcels. The area totals approximately 126.69 acres. Damascus has frontage along Airborne Road. The site has sloping topography. The property is currently a mix of forest and farmland with several related structures. The subject property is on the edge of the Dubuque city limits, so the properties to the east and south are in unincorporated Dubuque County. Those properties are a mix of forest land, farmland, single-family residences, and highway. The property to the west is zoned ag in the city. The property to the north is part of the Damascus landfill and also is zoned heavy industrial with conditions. The requested zoning district is an expansion of an existing zone and would allow for the use of sanitary landfill as well as resource recovery recycling center, indoor only. The list below in the report shows the permitted uses in the HI zoning district. Damascus seeks to limit the principal uses to those allowed on the rest of the landfill. So for that consistency, the conditions restricted the permitted and conditionally permitted uses are as follows: automated gas station, freight transfer facility, resource recovery recycling center, indoor only, railroad or public or quasi-public utility, including substation, and sanitary landfill. And conditional uses would include wind energy conversion system. And we have received no public input. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Any questions for staff and the commissioners? Yep.
Yeah, I had a question about how many years would it be, or how long would it be before those parcels would start to be used for landfill purposes? You mentioned getting them ready.
So right now, like I said, we have 13 years, 3 months left in the existing cell. The parcel closest to the existing landfill, we would look to develop part of that parcel first. So it's a phased development. It's not all going to be developed at once with 193 years of capacity. It would be developed in about half of that parcel length, likely to start in the next 8 to 10 years. I mean, they'll be doing some soil removal and stuff from there as we need borrow soil to cover on a daily basis. They'll be saving any soil that would be suitable for liner or anything like that. I mean, they'll begin to do some of the removal now to lower the overall costs to develop that cell. But actual land filling activities wouldn't need to occur until we cap out the existing or fill the existing cells in the next 13 years. So, I mean, there'd be some activities there related to those removals of surface soils and things like that to use for daily cover, if there's any rock or anything in the area. But actually using it for land filling wouldn't occur for about another 10 to 13 years.
Thank you.
You know, Kenneth, I'm going out of order. I should have asked you this earlier, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it since Carissa brought it up. But her concern was specific to water seepage and things of that nature. I think there'd be wisdom to talk about the program you develop and install.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would be working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We've had some informal meetings with them, both directly and through our consultant, HDR Engineering, about the plan to shift the creek outside the boundaries of the cell. That, of course, goes through approval with the Army Corps of Engineers, the state of Iowa. All have to agree that that plan will address the watershed needs necessary. There would be any of the mitigation that would occur in terms of wetland or stream bank mitigation. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has advised that that would likely have to occur off-site as far as any of those mitigation impacts. But they would require a stream channel width and depth necessary to handle the volume of water that flows through that stream. So they require all those estimates on what the flow rates and everything are, and then that stream bank or that stream channel would have to be designed to handle those capacity. And I think I'd have to ask Will for sure, but what level of rain event?
Hi, Will Nicholson with HDR Engineering. So I'm the engineer of record for the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Landfill. So we are currently, as Ken mentioned, working through the early stages of permitting for this mitigation. There's wetlands and there's a stream, so two different things. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has jurisdiction over both wetlands impacts and stream impacts, right? So those conversations are ongoing. They have a process that they work through, typically multi-year process of permitting such impacts, right? So what they are recommending is, you have your impacts to your wetlands, those will be mitigated off-site. If there's impacts to this stream, that will likely be mitigated off-site as well. In terms of the flow, that ends up going back to the Iowa DNR regulators, and they will regulate that design. That's a completely separate multiple-year permitting process. Stream channel has to be designed in order to meet the entire needs of the watershed, the projected future needs of the watershed. So this watershed works from south to north, which eventually ties into South Catfish Creek to the north of the site. So that entire watershed must be accounted for in design of that channel. So it's not dig a line and let the water flow this way. It's not a ditch, right? It is a highly engineered, highly permitted. Iowa DNR makes the final decision. We do the design, do our recommendation. They then take all of our determinations, all of our assumptions. They likely weigh in, say, we would like to see this. We'd like to see maybe a little bit of this. See if you can check this box. That's typically the process. It's not necessarily it has to meet this rain event. It must be as good or better than it is now. It must meet those needs. It must meet FEMA floodplain requirements. Those are kind of the boxes that get checked. So you typically have those three regulating bodies, right? Iowa DNR from their stream rehabilitation standpoint, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from wetlands and existing stream impacts, and then FEMA from a floodplain standpoint.
Maybe one other topic to discuss just for a moment, the complexity regarding the engineering of the liners themselves, I think is worth discussing for a second.
Sure. That is my strong suit. I am a solid waste engineer, so I brace yourselves. I can talk about this all night. But so this site has a combination of
2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
This site has a combination of an unlined area, which is heavily monitored because that was back in the 70s before that was called what we call pre-Subtitle D. So RECR regulations came out. Subtitle D got enacted that required that landfills had to have a liner system. They had to collect the leachate that was generated. So we have a portion of the landfill that is right in the center, which is heavily monitored, kind of 360 degrees all the way around that. The area to the north of that area is all lined, all has leachate collection system, and then the area to the south, which is the newer cell, so known as Cell 9, that is all the most modern technology, right? So in this case, that is regulated by the Iowa DNR, their solid waste branch. You have to have a minimum or equivalent of 2 feet of recompacted clay, which allows water to move no faster than 1 × 10⁻⁷ centimeters per second, which is, like not fast. It's pretty much like going through this floor. That's what you have to meet. And then sitting on top of that is a 60 mil HDPE liner. So you think of like when you see a water line going in, that big heavy pipe that's on the side of the road, think of that, but much thinner. So that goes in, you essentially create a giant bathtub, and then you put a leachate collection pipes in that, drainage layer to protect that liner, because you've spent a lot of money on that liner system. You don't want to damage it. So you have a drainage layer, protective layer, cover systems, and then all of that collects every bit of leachate that comes out. You then pull that out. In this case, it's sent via gravity line to the water reclamation facility. So those are all EPA standards, Iowa DNR adopted standards. That's every landfill that is being built within the country abides by those same regulations in terms of what that bottom liner system must be.
Good. I'm glad we talked about that. Any other questions while we got them? Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, any conversation amongst the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval as submitted.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion to approve the request as submitted to rezone this property to the HIC.
Okay.
Second.
Jason, we have a motion and we have a second.
Christ,
Aye.
Froistad,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. That will go before City Council on May the 18th. Thank you for coming in. Krista, thank you for coming in as well. All right, we are going to move on to item number 3 here, which is a text amendment by the City of Dubuque. Travis, is that you?
Yes, it is. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good.
Assistant Planner Travis Shrubelgen. So what's being requested here is a text amendment, and this is to list community gardens as a permitted use in all office, commercial, industrial districts. Community gardens are currently permitted in all residential districts and the office residential district only. And we have had requests recently, you may have seen it in the paper, for the community garden, which was briefly discussed also slightly earlier in the meeting. With 1836, the Washington Neighborhood Community Garden has been seeking different locations throughout the city, and there are many properties that they pointed out that were vacant and able to be used, but when we looked at what the zoning of those districts were, community garden was not a permitted use in those districts. So text amendments being not specific to a single property and not specific to a particular applicant. The city manager is the applicant in this request. This would again, excuse me, this would again add the ability for a community garden as a permitted use in those specific, in all the other zoning districts throughout the city that where it's not already permitted. Urban ag is a popular and increasing land use within cities and throughout cities. And this is just an ability to allow community gardens and the ability to get fresh food to neighborhoods who may be in a food desert or otherwise. I believe we have received no public input, and that is all I have unless you have additional questions.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
You should have it. All right.
Was the letter in favor or against the request?
I'm sorry, was it a letter? I don't believe we received a letter. We did have some input regarding the rezoning. It was kind of tangential. It wasn't directly related to this, but there was support from the Washington Neighborhood Garden, the community group there.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the text amendment as submitted.
Second?
Okay. Jason, we have a motion and we have a second.
Froistad,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ, Mulligan.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes. And we'll go to city council on May 18th. I'm sure you'll be there, Travis. All right, we'll move on. Any items from the public? Very good, seeing none. Any items from commission this evening? It's good to see you all.
Oh, one.
Yeah?
I'm not going to be here next month because I have another conflict that I have to go to. But, so this will be my last meeting.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not renewing my application, so this will be my last
Congratulations.
meeting.
How many years was it on this commission?
I think,
Oh, Wally might be able to clarify that for you, Martha.
You know, Martha, we're not letting you get away from her free and easy from us.
Yeah.
So I had a planning tech do a lot of work. So we got a little bit of, quite a few stats here to talk about tonight. So tonight is a special night for the commission as we recognize someone who has quite literally helped shape Dubuque as we know it, Commissioner Martha Christ. Yes, Martha's retiring after an incredible 32 years of volunteer service on the Zoning Advisory Commission. Now we could just say thank you and move on, but 32 years deserves a little more perspective. Over her time on this commission, Martha has attended more than 311 meetings. That's essentially showing up every Monday night for 6 straight years without missing a beat. She has dedicated at least,
we come on Wednesday.
Sorry.
that's
My
right,
typo.
26,372 minutes or 439 and a half hours to this work. And that's nearly 18 full days spent in meetings, enough time to fly from Dubuque to Paris 44 times, or walk from Dubuque to San Francisco and still have energy to start heading back. And then there are the 1,369 plus projects that she's reviewed. That's rezonings, text amendments, planning and developments, subdivision plats, and site design waivers. If you stack those all those staff reports and plans, you have a paper tower that could rival a shot tower. Martha has just been here for the meetings. Martha hasn't just been here for the meetings. She's been here for the moments that mattered. She's seen the evolution of the Unified Development Code, and she's been part of the conversation around some of Dubuque's most transformative areas. Those are the Millwork District, the Port of Dubuque, Chaplain Schmidt Island, Asbury Plaza, the inception and growth of our industrial parks, and many, many more. And that's just not participation, that's a front row seat to the transformation of this community. But, excuse me, I'm a little choked up, Martha. But we'll remember most, just as the volume of work, it's how Martha approached it. She's always been a balanced and thoughtful voice. She listened, really listened to public input, understanding that behind every application is a neighbor, a business owner, a concern, or a dream. And she never hesitated to speak up, whether she agreed, breath, or challenged an idea. She made sure her perspective helped move the conversation forward in a meaningful way. Martha, you've been a constant on this commission, steady, thoughtful, and committed. And the truth is, you'll be incredibly hard to replace. We're grateful, not just for your time, but your care, your perspective, and your belief in doing this work well. We'll have the opportunity to formally recognize Martha again at an upcoming city council meeting with more details to come. But for now, Martha, thank you for 32 years, 311 meetings, and for helping shape a better Dubuque.
Thank you. Didn't have to.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Thank you.
Been here since the beginning of your career, right?
Yes.
Yeah, since the beginning, since before the beginning. Yeah, because while you've been here for what, 20?
I've been here for 25 years. Martha has been here, Kyle and Guy.
With Kyle and Guy.
Yeah.
Laura and Laura
Yeah.
and
Laura Karstens, and so all my predecessors. So it's amazing what you've done, Martha. And by the way, she did it all for $0.
Yeah.
Actually, she paid more money.
Even though some lady argued with me one night about how much we got paid because we got here and we didn't have a quorum. And so we couldn't hold the meeting, and she got me out in the hall, and she was like, and she says, you don't realize how much time of mine you've wasted by having us come down and not being able to have this meeting. And I said, well, I hate to disappoint you, ma'am, but I said, I don't get paid. I volunteered. So it kind of wasted my time too, because I showed up and there's no meeting. Then she didn't have anything to say. She said, oh.
I do have to put an asterisk with some of this because Kyle and Guy didn't keep the best minutes back in the 1990s. So there are a couple non-adjournment timeframes on there. So we had to make an estimate of maybe six meetings. So it was funny. Our planning text says minimum at this time. So that's amazing, Martha. You know, it's been great. And
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, and we'll have to pick a city council date, and we'll be sure to let all of you know when that's happening too, so we can hoot and holler in recognition of you. So
Martha's so humble. I know she doesn't want to do it, but it's
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So the only other thing on the agenda is city council goal setting, which is hard to follow that up. But I will not make this a long discussion, but just want to present that, this is a process that the city goes through annually as we look at the city council goal setting for the next fiscal year. We just finished the budget for one, and we roll right into the discussion for the next one. So included in your packet tonight is a list of what we've recognized as successes from this past fiscal year, but there may be more. So if you want to take a look at that with a critical eye, some of these are things that, it's just recognizing the number of meetings we've had or the number of projects that we've reviewed. So that's kind of, some of them are just, us being compliant with the requirements we have, legally and whatnot. But if there are other things that we haven't identified on here, please let us know. We have a little bit of time. Actually, I think they're all due tomorrow. So let me know tomorrow what those might look like if you have any comments. And then we also then have to roll into looking at our initiatives and kind of the next year forecasting. So we're going to definitely be coming back with that update to our Unified Development Code. And this commission will certainly play an integral part of that discussion and helping to shape that and move that forward too. So just know that will be coming down the pipeline here soon. So not to bring us down off of Martha's celebration, but had to finish up that little tidbit of important business.
You're right, I wanted to go back to Martha's.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's circle back.
Do we need to make a motion on the goal setting?
No motion necessary. But again, if you have any additional input or if you feel like something, and we can certainly discuss it. If you feel like there's something, if you want to take a look at it now, if there's something that you think needs to be updated, or if we've missed something that you feel is a success or a future initiative or goal, then please let us know. But
So what do we need to be in pursuit of then? 2 people, 1 person? What do we have?
so as of tonight, while he doesn't know this yet, Terry let us know that her last meeting is going to be July. I know, I did the same thing. I almost was like, what? Yeah. So her term ends in July. So yes, we'll be in pursuit of 2 new commissioners. So if you know people who might be interested, you are one of our best word of mouth. So we will also have that posted on the city's website. And so hopefully we can have, 2 big shoes to fill, really.
Yes.
We will miss both of you. So, but I think Terry will have you into July, right? Will we hopefully have leave for June rather? I'm sorry. Okay, great. But I know Martha, tonight was your last night. So, so if you know of anybody who is looking to, as an interest, then please, send them our way. The city clerk's office manages all the applications for us. So then that goes to city council, and the city council appoints the individuals to the commission. So yes, we will miss both of you. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for asking that.
I'll put it on Facebook.
Okay. I don't know.
Boy.
Actually, I think the clerk's
the
office
job
does do
listings.
that sometimes. So yes.
We'll
yeah.
put $0 as your fee.
Yes.
Must
I was
live in the
thinking.
city, though.
That's true.
I was thinking about your time, and I was thinking all of those stats don't even include the time you spend reviewing a packet or, the literal travel time. We talked about travel time getting to and from meetings. And it really is a big commitment. We
When I
recognize
first
that.
started, we didn't have the quasi and that wasn't a big, so like if neighbors came and stuff, they would call and a group, if you could go and you could talk to them. So sometimes you went and talked to neighbors before.
Oh.
Because at that point that wasn't a no-no then. That was part of the, you were expected
Process.
to talk to him.
Wow. Things have certainly changed.
Yes, a lot.
It's awesome.
All right, well,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
favor?
Aye.
Ed.